Hello, everybody. Well done on the first two lessons that we've done. They definitely weren't the easiest lessons to start with. We've looked at non-verbal reasoning, verbal reasoning. We've looked at dividing and forgetting about remainders and looking at decimal places instead. And we've also looked at inference. And none of those are straightforward. So you've done very, very well for the first two lessons. What we're going to do in our first homework tutorial video is revisit a couple of those question types and kind of change the context of them. In other words, what we're going to do is use the same skills that we've been using, but look at those questions in a slightly different way. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Here we go. Let's just make it bigger. Okay, so on the screen, I have a question. Now, if you think you know how to do this, I would still appreciate if you just watched through this just once more, just to make sure you're properly secure with the method here. Okay, so this question is all about getting an answer. And if there happens to be a remainder in my answer, I need to convert that remainder into decimals. I'm no longer going to use remainders. When we get to year 5, we really want to start focusing on those decimals and not the remainders, okay? So we've got 830 divided by 3. And we solved this just like you've always solved division problems. So how many times does 3 go into 8? Well, 3, 6, it goes twice. But because we landed on 6, we've got a 2 remainder. That remainder goes in front of my next number. So 3 becomes 23. How many times does 3 go into 23? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. It goes 7 times. And we landed on 21, so we've got a remainder of 2. Let's put that remainder in front of the next number. So 0 becomes 20. How many times does 3 go into 20? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. It goes 6 times, and we land on 18. So because we've landed on 18, we've got a 2 remainder. So my answer is 276 remainder 2. But remember, now that we're in year 5, we're not going to express our answer using remainders. Instead, we're going to express our answer using decimals. So this is what we do. We get our remainder, and instead of writing R2, we're going to put our remainder. We're going to draw a decimal point at the top here and a decimal point at the bottom here, and we're going to put our remainder at the bottom, but this time we're going to add a placeholder, so a 0. Now I'm going to carry on what it was I was doing. So how many times does 3 go into 20? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. It goes 6 times. So I write 6. Now I landed on 18, so I have a 2 remainder. When I've got my new remainder, once again, I add that placeholder 0 and I continue doing what I was doing. So how many times does 3 go into 20? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. It goes 6 times and we've got a 2 remainder. So by now you've probably worked out that actually this is going to keep giving us the same answer. So we know what the answer is. It's going to be 276 decimal point 6666666 forever. Okay, but for the purpose of our questions, if we ever get to 2, or let's say if we ever get to 3 decimal places and our answer's still going, we'll just stop. We can stop there and just read the first 3 decimal places. So that's the first one. Now, what I recommend is if you didn't understand that, I would recommend rewinding and watching through it again. Okay, because we do need to understand this if we're going to answer the questions that are about to follow. So let's have a look at the next question. What I'd like you to do with this question is actually have a go at answering it yourself. Okay, so pause the video here, and when you unpause it, I'm going to move on to the next question. So pause the video, work it out, and then we'll move on to the next question. Okay, you should have worked this question out by now. I'm going to tell you what the answer is to see if you are correct. So I've set it out like I normally do. I've written out my bus stop method. I've got 611 inside the bus stop. I've got 5 on the outside of the bus stop. Okay, so how many times does 5 go into 6? It goes once, but I've got 1 remainder. So that goes in front of the next digit. How many times does 5 go into 11? 5, 10. It goes twice. And I've got 1 remainder. How many times does 5 go into 11? Twice. And I've got 1 remainder. So remember, our remainder now, decimal point goes in the bus stop. remainder of 1. Let's add our placeholder, so it becomes 10. How many times does 5 go into 10? 5, 10, twice, and there's no remainders. Okay, so that's my answer, 122.2. So hopefully you got that right. If you didn't get it right, what I would do is have a look at how I just answered that question and try to figure out whereabouts you went wrong, so that you can fix it for next time. All right, let's move on. So now, at the beginning of this video, what I said we were doing is answering the same questions, but with a slightly different context. So in a slightly different way. So we need the same skill, but with different questions. So we're going to use word problems, but use the same skill to solve these word problems. So on the screen, you can see a word problem. It says 1,400 bottles are stacked into 5 boxes. How many bottles are in each box? Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there and hopefully you know what to do with it. Pause the video now and then work it out and then unpause and we'll move on. Next question. 527 litres of water is divided into 4 tubs. How many litres is in each tub? Okay, so once again, pause it if you need to. I have a feeling we might need to convert our remainders into decimals for this question, so bear that in mind. 12,340 football fans are in a stadium. They are divided equally into 4 sections of the stadium. How many fans are in each section? So once again, pause it here, have a go at answering it, and then we're going to move on. Okay. So let's move on now to non-verbal reasoning. So we did look at non-verbal reasoning both days, Monday and Tuesday. So we're going to remind ourselves of what we did. So I'm going to answer. So I've got 2 questions for you to answer, but I'm going to make it a bit tricky for you because I'm not going to remind you how we did it. The only clue I'm going to give to you is we used a technique called snaps. Okay, so see if you remember that technique, and can you use that technique to decide which of the following boxes at the bottom should come here. So which one do you reckon? And remember, if you are struggling, use snaps and you have to be patient with it. So if you're new to non-verbal reasoning questions, it might not be very quick and easy for you. So just be patient and see what you come up with. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, so we've got another question here. Once again, you need to figure out what goes into that space. We've got all those boxes at the bottom. One of those boxes is going to belong in that space. Can you figure out which one? And once again, remember, if you need the technique, we use something called snaps. Can you remember what snaps is all about? Okay, so we're going to leave it there. Once again, well done for our first couple of days. Give this homework a go. If you need any of the answers to any of the questions, just get your parent to message me and I'll tell you what the answer is. But I don't want to put the answers in the video because I don't want you to accidentally see the answers, but I also want you to not be tempted to look at the answer without answering it yourself. But if you're really struggling with a question and you just can't work it out, then of course ask your parents to message me and I will tell you what the answer is. So just notice one thing. I think that my camera, I can't really see my camera on the screen, but I'm thinking it could be in the way of this question. So let me quickly hide my camera for this question. There we go. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope that you remember how to do this. And if you don't, of course, ask as many questions as you need to ask. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.